Hi, thanks for joining us. Today we're going to be making this little mechanical whale. So what you do is you hang him up in your window and you pull the string and he swims up. So step one, you want to remove your axle piece. Be careful as you push the pieces out that you don't break any. And sand off any tabs. It's important to sand off the tabs so you don't have them bind up with any of the mechanisms. Now take out a medium-sized disc. So we've got large discs, medium-sized discs and small discs. So we want a medium-sized disc. Sand off any tabs. And then take your axle piece, and with these little angled bits angling in towards you, then push on to the left side this medium-sized disc. Be gentle as you push it on. You can just place your thumbs in and squeeze that on until the disc reaches the spigot. Now take a large disc without an extra slot. So there's two large discs. They both have this large slot in the middle, but one of them has an extra little slot. So take the one without the extra slot. Sand off any tabs. And push that on to the left of your other disc. You can push down on the table. Just be careful that you push your thumbs to the side of the slit this way, not this way, because it's stronger this way. And right in close to the axle until it touches the other disc. Now you can take your other large disc sand off any tabs. With your assembly such that these slots on the axle are pointing in like this, then take your disc and have this slot downwards and just push that on, only part way, not all the way for now. Now take your 1 meter long piece of string and put that through this slot and pull it through about halfway. And then you can push this disc on all the way onto this center spigot until it reaches the other disc, and that'll pinch the string and secure it a bit more in place. You can slide it backwards and forwards a bit, but it's a bit more secured. Now take a small disc, sand off any tabs, and push that on to the right. Slide it on until it reaches your other disc. And now take a medium-sized disc, sand off any tabs, and push that on up to the other disc. Now take your remaining 2 small discs, sand off any tabs, Now if your assembly is a bit loose, mine isn't, it seems to be nice and tight, but sometimes due to inconsistencies in cutting tolerances we can end up with a slightly looser assembly. If it is loose, then you can glue on these pieces to keep it all retained. You want to be gluing the slot onto the axle and squeezing them all together. So we'll just demonstrate that. Take some glue, just dab it on that face. Spread it over the face and inside the slot. Important that you get it inside the slot. And then push the disc onto our assembly. You can clean away any excess glue. Make sure you don't have any glue inside of the slot that's going to prevent you from getting your stick into the slot later, so just clean out any glue from inside that slot. And now we can glue on our other disc. So again, just a dab of glue. Spread that around and spread it inside the slot and on the face, and push that on to the other side. Make sure there's no obstructions as you push it on, and squeeze that all together. And again, clear out your slot if there's glue inside there. And you can set that aside for 30 minutes to dry. Now we can make the whale body, so push out the whale body pieces. Sand off any tabs. And now take your cross pieces, find the piece with the spigots in the center and push that out. Sand off any tabs. Now find the nice side of your whale. One side will be nicer than the other, and push on this cross piece into the back slot such that these little holes are at the bottom, closer to where his mouth is, because our string is going to run out one of these holes. Now take your other cross piece, push out any holes, and this little spigot goes in between his teeth. Okay, and now take his tail. Sand off any tabs. Take our other body piece and push on the teeth into that front spigot, and just rest that on the other spigot for now, don't push it in, but take your tail, the nice side facing up, and put those spigots into the holes, and now you can push on the rest of the body to secure the tail. Now take your bamboo skewer and you're going to measure a 55mm length. And trim the skewer. There's a special method here. Put your scissors around the mark, apply a bit of pressure and turn the skewer in between the blades whilst applying a bit of pressure and letting it slide up and down. This way prevents you cracking the bamboo skewer, splitting it. Measure another 55mm length and cut that piece as well. Sand off the edges on your sticks. Now take the fins. Push out any holes. Sand off any tabs. Now take your pulley assembly and you want to adjust the string such that in the slot of the large pulley you will have 60 centimeters of string to wind around it, and in the slot of the small pulley you will have 40 centimeters of string. So measure 40 centimeters on this side of the string that will be wound around the small pulley. It's 30 and 40. Pinch your fingers on the string there and pull the string until your fingers reach that center disc. Now we have 40 centimeters on this side and 60 on this side. So take this 60 centimeter length and rotate the pulley towards you so that this large pulley is facing you, and you're going to wind this string 6 times anti-clockwise around the large pulley. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and almost 6. Now take your pulley and with the large spool towards you and the string going off towards the right, turn your whale and take the string and put it through the right hole in his back by his tail. And give that a pull. Let the pulley come in to his body and pull that down a bit until the string from your small spool is around about at this cross piece, and then bring the string from the small spool up and through that small spool and put the string through this left hole. Pull it through. So that's in the right hole of the whale. Now take your sticks and we're going to secure this spool in place by pushing these in. So put them into the holes in the side of his body, locate the slot in the spool axle, and you're going to have to push these in on a little bit of an angle because that slot was angled, so just play around with your stick to find that angle. And push in your other stick. It's going to be a mirror image of that angle. Make sure you push that in all the way. Now you can test out the mechanism by keeping some tension on these strings. Just slide your hand up to the end and give that a pull. And your whale should climb up the string. Lie it down and make sure you've got enough string pulled through at the bottom on his tail end, and tie a loop big enough to put a finger in. And then pull the string at the top until that knot reaches the hole and stops the string coming through. Then you can tie a loop in the other end of the string. Take your other piece of string and measure a 10 centimeter length and cut it. Do that again, measure another 10 centimeter length. Okay, now flippers are going to sit on like this. So take one of those pieces of string, put the two ends together and push them in to these top holes together such that the loop is on the nice side of the fin. Just push them through slightly like this. Do the same with the other string. Just trim that end to make it easier to get through the hole. Now we can flip that over so that the nice side is downwards. Our whale is lying on his back at the moment, and we're going to slide those loops over the little arm stick. Pull these in slightly. Now not all the way, don't want his flipper to be too tight on the arms. Take your bit of sandpaper and sit it in underneath as a packer, and then pull these tight, and now tie a knot
Don't tie these too tight, your sandpaper still needs to slide out easily.
One, and another knot to secure it. Two, do the same on the other hole.
If these are too tight, you'll find that your flippers start rotating with the arms, which we don't want, and if that's the case, then you'll have to undo them and do them again a little bit looser.
One, two, and you can slide out your sandpaper packer. Your fin should be a little bit loose. Trim off the excess string. You can always put a blob of glue on these knots if they're likely to come undone. Now take your other flipper. Again measure 2 10cm lengths of string. 1, 2. Bring those ends together to form a loop and push those ends into the holes on the long edge from the nice side of the wood. 1, 2. Slide those loops onto the arm. Pull them a bit tighter and then take your sandpaper and push that in as a packer. Now you can tie the knots. Two knots, and the other side. One, two. Slide out your sandpaper. Check that fin's nice and loose. Now trim off your excess string. Now measure a 15cm length of string. And tie a triple overhand knot in one end. So that's going through once, through twice, through a third time, and pull it up tight so there are knots at the end of the string. Trim off any excess string. Cut another 15cm length of string. Give it a cut. And another triple overhand knot. 1, 2, 3. Pull that up tight at the end of the string and trim off the excess. Now take your whale and flip him over onto his back, and you want to position his flippers such that they're all the way forward towards his mouth. So this would be back towards his tail, this is forward towards his mouth.
Now I'm talking about the ends of the wooden sticks, which I've marked with little stars. They are fully forward towards his mouth.
Here's a view from the side. You can see that the tips of the sticks of his fins are right up forward towards his mouth. So they're not back like this, but they're forward like this. So in their fully forward position. And when they're there, you can bring your strings up together under his tummy and tie them together just to hold the fins in that position for the time being. Okay, so now his fins are stuck in that more or less forward position. And take your strings we prepared earlier with the knot on each end. So your whale is lying on his back. Bring a slip around so it's up on the tummy side, and you're going to push a string down through this hole. Do the same with this fin, so bring it round so the hole is over by his tail end, and push the string down through the hole. And those knots should keep them from coming through. Now bring up his tail, rest him on the end of his tail, and you're going to push these two ends in through the tail hole from this direction. And then pull those strings. And pull them out to the side. They're going to be just coming underneath the tail. So when his fins are in this forward position, these strings become tight and they pull the tail into this position. When they come back, they'll become loose and gravity will make the tail flop back down again. So now let's tie a knot to stop these strings coming off. One, and two. Here's a close-up showing how the strings are coming over through this hole and the knot is down on the other side underneath. So our arms are forward and the tail's been pulled up. So now we can untie these strings and test out the tail mechanism. Be sure to keep tension on these strings so they don't become tangled inside of the spool. So now what's happening is that as he climbs up, his tail is now wiggling. If you find that your tail is not wiggling very much, then it's probably because these strings are not getting tight enough. They're staying too loose, so they're not putting enough force on the tail. So if that's the case, then you can undo this knot. So you shouldn't have cut your strings yet, so undo the knot and pull those strings in a little bit further before you tie the knot so that they have a bit more tension on them. But don't tie them too tightly, because then your whale will get stuck. So you'll know your strings are too tight if your whale is not falling back down or not being able to lift up. The strings will get too tight that he won't be able to move his flippers any further forward and complete the rotation. So if you find that your whale is getting stuck, or that on the way down he's not dropping back down, it's probably because these strings are too tight. So you'll then again need to loosen the knot on his tail and give these strings a little bit more length and retie the knot. So the correct length of these strings should be such that when his fins are as far forward as possible, so the tips of his fins, the tips of these sticks have come as far forward as they will ever come in their rotation, that this tail being tied so that it hangs like this, just level with the side of his body, then that should be the correct length for those strings. But you might need to lengthen or shorten them a bit if you find you have these problems of either the tail not wiggling, then the strings are too long, or the whale not falling back down under gravity or getting jammed, then the strings are too short.
Then once you're happy with the motion, you can then trim the excess string.
And we can trim the excess string on his tail. And if you're worried about your knots coming undone, you can put a blob of glue on them, and likewise if any other joints seem loose, you can put some glue around them and some water to make the glue wick into the join. Otherwise, that's all done. You can hang your whale in your window and pull the string to make him swim.